Like, is that man my husband? Is that man my husband? Like, the actions, when we say we giving up the reins and Jesus take the wheel and all that stuff, it all sounds cute. But my husband hits every single thing on my list except use discernment. Use discernment in those situations. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kristin. Welcome if you're new here. I am so excited to have each and every one of you, and as always, I am so excited to see your gorgeous faces. And I know I cannot see you, but I just know that you are absolutely flawless because you are made in the image of God. And today we have a really juicy video, and I'm going to get into all the details of how I knew in my heart, in my spirit, in my soul that my husband was the one. And we are coming up on the 1-year anniversary of when we met. So yes, if you don't know the backstory, we met, we got engaged, and we got married all within 1 calendar year. And there were definitely a couple things that played a part in that, and I just want to kind of touch on what it's like to just have God's stamp of approval on a relationship and just, you know, find the one that God has for you. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you're interested, keep watching. You'll enjoy this one. Okay, first things first, I want to touch on the fact that there's this like whole phenomenon going around that says we have to find our husband. That is not what the Bible says. The Bible says that he who finds a wife finds a good thing. And so it's not saying that, yes, we can't just be in position and be waiting well, but waiting and ready for our husbands to show up. But it doesn't mean we're also like going out intentionally and being like, like, is that man my husband? Is that man my husband? You know, I'm guilty. I did that at one point too, when I was like, okay, like, hey, like, God, like, what's going on? Like, is he coming? But I think it's really important to mention that when your time is coming, when your time comes, your man will find you. And if you have any other stories, please let me know. Let me know in the comments of maybe you found your man. I want to know that. So let me know down in the comments below. But what is really great about our whole entire relationship is that this is something that the Lord definitely had his hand on, because if you go back and watch the video, I'll see if I can link it up here. But the video of actually how we met, neither of us really wanted to be at the particular event that we were at when we met. And it was like one of those things where we had an obligation, sort of like a business obligation. And that's how we ended up there. And we ended up meeting, and we didn't really even exchange numbers or anything like that for like an entire 2 months after that. So, but it was one of those things that we were in position and we were doing what the Lord told us to. We were doing what the people around us encouraged us to do, and we ended up meeting that way. And so that was one of the biggest reasons that I knew that this man could potentially be my husband, is because he came at such a time where I was like, God, like, I don't even know, I'm relinquishing it all. Like, when we say we giving up the reins and Jesus take the wheel and all that stuff, it all sounds cute. But I really was like, yo, Lord, like, take the wheel. I was like, I don't know what to do anymore. So, you know, you got it. And we ended up meeting. So I think that that was one of the very big key indicators that this was someone I was going to marry, along with everything else that we're going to talk about today. Okay, so the second way that I knew that this man was my husband is because he was so intentional. And again, I'm going to keep speaking about that video that we did together of how we met, because you can see the intention all the way through. And even like when he got my number, like he always said in the beginning, like we had a business interaction, a business exchange, and he didn't really want to mix business with personal life, right? Business is pleasure. And so he was like, you know, I'm just going to see if there is an opportunity for me to organically have a conversation, see how we vibe, and then I'm gonna ask for her number. And that's exactly what happened. But then even after that, he was very intentional. Like, I will see, I think I have a screenshot of a text message he sent me way before we were engaged, way before we got married. And he was like, no, like, you're my wife, like, you're my future wife. And like, he moved like that. And I think that was so huge for me to see, because we can hear a lot of talk. Okay, talk is cheap, for real. But the actions, like, the actions are what matter, you know? And so his actions definitely showed that he was serious about pursuing me, about courting me, and marrying me in the end. And so I'm just so grateful for that. And that was like one of the biggest things. And then kind of leading into the third thing is like our families blended and meshed very, very, very well. And so going back to him being very intentional, it was like, I think before we were officially dating, he asked me to be his girlfriend officially on Valentine's Day. And a couple days before that, he was like, no, I want you to meet like my family. Like, I want you to come to my church. Like, I want you to meet the people who are so important to me, because I want them to know you, and you're someone, like, he already said he had plans of already asking me to be his girlfriend on Valentine's Day. So like, this is a couple days before, but he's like, you're someone that I'm gonna be with, and I need it all to kind of like work together, right? So that happened. I ended up meeting his family, and they were phenomenal. Like, I loved them. I attended a Super Bowl party of theirs, and it was just so great. We had a great time. It was actually his younger sister Ella's birthday, and so we were able to celebrate that as well. And it was just very genuine, and his family was just so welcoming and so warm, and I just felt like these people could be my family. And then same thing, 2 weeks after that, we actually traveled to Cincinnati to meet all of my family. So that's where he officially met like my mom and my bonus dad. And then again, like my entire family, my grandma, cousins, aunties, uncle, like everybody. And they loved him as well. And so like, family is such a huge thing that is important to the both of us. And that was a really big deal of like making sure that our families, you know, our families liked each other, right? Technically each other. They didn't necessarily all meet until like the wedding. Our parents all met way before that, right? But like our extended families didn't meet until the wedding. So like, that was a thing, but it's really just like, I don't know, just like how well they accepted like us and our relationship, and that was like super important, and that literally turned out so well. So like early on, I was getting all of these things, like many confirmations from God that was like, okay, like this works, like this works. Also, pause before we go through the next couple things. What I did a year prior, maybe like a year and a half prior, I wrote an entire list of what I wanted my future husband to be, like the attributes, the qualities, the personality, like everything. And when I tell you, my husband now, it's so funny because I ended up writing this list, and then I added one thing at the end, like maybe like a couple months later when I like revisited the list, and my husband hits every single thing on my list except for the one thing that I added later on, which clearly, if I didn't add it in the first place, it wasn't that important. And the one thing I added later on was that he was a good cook. We're still working on that part. However, every other thing, like I just wanted him to be a man on fire for God, willing to be in ministry. He was kind-hearted, gentle, loving, like all of the things, you know? And so everything, he hit everything. And so that was just a really big deal. And so like, one of my tips for you all is just to make sure that you are being very specific in what you desire and what you pray for, because then you can line it up, you can match it up and say, hey, like this man, he may have 6 out of 10 things, then that's not the man God has for you. Because God cares about the details, and he is very much so detail oriented if he cares about how the sparrows and the lilies and everything else, like he's very much so very detail oriented. So he's going to care about all of the little things that you desire. Now, I'm not saying all this stuff can be physical stuff, like, hey, he has to be this and 6'2" and chocolate and that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying all of the physical stuff. I'm saying like in here, like what is his spirit saying? What does his soul say? And that man God has for you, okay? So going into the next reason, the next way that I knew my husband was the one, is that we had very, very, very similar goals and ambitions. And I'm not talking about like necessarily exact same career paths and all of that stuff, but what we saw for our family, what we saw for our relationship, what we saw for what we were building and the things that we wanted to create and brand and, you know, build together, invest in. We had very, very, very similar like ways and viewpoints of that. Like I remember we had the conversation of how many kids that we wanted. We were both very close. We were in the ballpark. We were like 1 or 2 kids off. I think I said 4 and Daniel said 3. So, you know, wherever we end up, who knows? But we were very, very close in that. We were very close in just like things that we wanted to, again, build and create. So that was so important because you definitely want to be aligned. And I believe that the people that God has for you, your spouse, whether if it's your husband or your wife, whoever you are watching this, like God will align those things, and those things will fall into place, and they don't have to be forced. There was not a lot of things, if anything, honestly, that we had to force in our relationship, but it came very natural and very organic. Like, that's the word we love to use when describing it, because it was not anything that was super like, okay, like, we gotta do this, and you're forcing you to do this. It wasn't like that. That's not what it was. And so grateful for that. But yeah, so just like knowing that, you know, your plans are aligned, your goals are aligned, definitely talking about these things beforehand. We had a lot of conversations just on kids, how we'd raise them, like, you know, everything like that, you know? And it was very, very great that we had that agreement going into what is now our long-term marriage. And the last thing that Daniel showed me way before we ever even talked about marriage was how supportive he was of me. And it's so funny because like during that time I was going through a major transition. Like I ended up leaving the office space and moving out of that I had, transitioning in my boutique, just like everything that I wanted to do with my career. Like there was just so many transitions, and that man was literally 10 toes down supportive every way. And if anything, we had more conversations on like me not telling him how he could be more supportive than anything else, because I'm a woman, you know, I'm a Black woman. I'm not gonna use that as any excuse, but if y'all watch, I don't know, I think it was like my last video or the video before that, but I said like asking for help, like what it actually is to like ask for help in the things that you need. And my husband was very, very like, yo, like, I want to help you do whatever you want to do. Like, let me in, tell me the details. Like, I want to support you. And that was so huge for me. And I'm just like super grateful for that. I'm super grateful that he even cared enough to say that he wanted to help, you know? And so that was really a huge indicator, because as life changes, as seasons evolve, kids, you know, everything that's going to come into the future of what we don't even know right now, but is what God has already laid out for us. Like, we want supportive partners. And I keep saying I'm so grateful, but y'all need to know, like, I am so grateful. That's just what it is. And so, but yeah, I'm very blessed that my partner is completely 100% supportive of me, my goals, my dreams, like my desires, and everything like that. And that was like such a big thing. That's something that I don't think I actually put on my list, but that's because God knows like what we need and then more, right? He does exceedingly and abundantly above all that we can ever ask, think, or imagine. So that's why you have to make sure that you're asking God for the big things, because God's gonna do exceedingly and abundantly more than that. And I believe that he truly blessed me with one of the most perfect people I've ever met. And he's not perfect, but he's perfect for me. And I'm just so grateful for that. So I don't know, maybe it just is a video just me like talking about my husband and how much I love him, but I hope that it actually inspires you to know that what you're praying for, you can get. God does not have any limits when it comes to blessing his children, because he loves us without limits. And so if you are in a season, if you're desiring to be married, if you're desiring to find the one, maybe you're in a season where you actually are in a relationship and you're not entirely sure if that's the relationship you're supposed to be in, I want to let you know that God is not the author of confusion, okay? The enemy is the one who's going to try to confuse you. Everything that God has for you is going to completely and perfectly lay out. Now, there will be things that happen in our lives that we don't understand and God understands, but if it's causing us to not be certain or to be wary of something, use discernment. Use discernment in those situations. And I have definitely been there, and there were a lot of situations that I should have used a lot more discernment, because you know better, but things happen. So that is just my prayer for you, that you are inspired to just know that God is not done. He is still working. He has huge plans for each and every one of us, and he loves you so much, and he loves you, and he cares about every single detail going on in your life. So I hope this encourages you while you're waiting. Please leave me a comment down below if any of this resonated with you. Maybe there's something that you're praying for God more than something else, or just some attributes of what you want in your future spouse. I want to know it down in the comments below. and I will see you all in the next video. I love you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you feel led to be over here in my corner of the internet, and I will see you all soon. Bye.